Let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast. You know, this is like this amazing kind of multi-dimensional. Hey, we are coming for you today. We're making up words already. I'm like 3 words in. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves for what's about to take place. Okay, let's go ahead and ground ourselves in our greatness. I don't know if you know some of the listeners of this show, but in case you don't, which you may not, some of the original listeners who have been here since day one, supporting, loving, growing, moving, glowing, okay? And one of my favorite listeners shall go down as absolutely the original listener of this show, is making freaking moves. And I get a closer watch on her because, you know, we're each other's people for probably life now. Like we had such an amazing connection from the beginning of this, and I know that she still listens, and I hope that she hears this. I just my goal when I started this wasn't to change people's minds, wasn't even to get people chasing their own dreams. It was to just help one person get back on track. If I could share my story and help just one person see that it's okay to want more, or that it's okay to know that you're not doing everything that you were called, and that you deserve your own space, you deserve goodness in your life, and you can stand up and make that change and go make that happen, and start taking steps towards that, and start loving yourself, and start forgiving yourself, and move. And if I could come on here and I could use the skills that I have, you know, right in my tool belt that I have built over time, that I have had access to, if I could take those things and build a platform and just start having that conversation, and I could change one person's life with even just one word that I said, then it will have all of been worth it. And Erica, all hearts, was one of the first people to really step in and say, hey, this is making a difference in my life. The way that you said that, the things that you're doing, and she hopped on early and said that. And that really unleashed this permission to continue exploring. A permission that I don't know that I would have given myself had she not stepped in right in that moment and acknowledged that this existed. And she's just such a beautiful light. And I know that my existence, that the creation of this has had a very small impact in who she would have inevitably became regardless. But she is just doing the most amazing things. And she's just such a beautiful light to this world. And I think she knows that, right? But those people who are lights in your life, who are lights in your world, who brighten it up so that you can see, even if it's just to take one more step forward, those people deserve all the love and support that you can give them. You know, whether they helped you take one step or a million steps, right? Go ahead and take today. Today, I want you to acknowledge one of those people in your life. And when we do that, I want you to have Erica in your thoughts as your driver for doing that, because sometimes, and this has been one of the biggest realities that I've ever noticed in doing this work, like some people just need one person to say they support them, they love them, they believe in their worth, and everything could change after that. And Erica was that person for me, and I know that she's that person for a lot of people. So today, I would love to give her all the Facebook shout outs. I'd love to do all of those things, but this is what I want to do today for Erica, to celebrate her, to celebrate the path that she is on, to celebrate her life. I want you to take the energy and the light of Erica and spread that light in her name. So go out today. Take a second and recognize someone who is the Erica of your life. And when you do that, think of Erica, and that energy and light will return to Erica and hopefully give her love and even more power and light than she had before. So take all that beautiful energy and go ahead and share it with someone today. Let them know that what they're doing makes a difference, that you see them, that they made a difference in your life. And think of Erica when you do that. And I think that's how we recognize Erica for the beautiful light that she is, and we continue to support one another and the growth that this really world needs. The growth and the support and the love and the light and the beauty of who you are and who you're supposed to be. So make sure that you take time today, not only to recognize yourself for your greatness, but take time in the name of Erica to recognize someone who is a light in your life. And when you do that, I want you to be thinking of Erica, even if you don't know what she physically looks like. This is just the person that is the light in your life and the reason that you kept going when you couldn't see forward. I want you to take time, text them, call them, just like intentionally love them. And that intent looks like the energy of Erica, and hopefully Erica feels that love and energy today and every day that you continue to work in the spirit and light of Erica. I know that she will feel that, and I think that'll be a bigger and better intention for her than anything I could have done on social media. So please take time to do that today. These people who are these lights, I think we think that they burn without fuel, you know? And when you think of who these people are, you're just like, I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they stay so strong. I don't know how they, always are so positive and so happy. And I am telling you, they won't burn forever if people don't give some of that love back. So do it. Do that. I don't like to give you orders, but I am going to go ahead and do that today. And I will tell you that conversation will not hurt. Like, it will be such a beautiful light in your own day, and it will kind of transcend and make you realize how thankful you are for those kinds of people in your life. And hopefully it's just like this big karmic reaction of beauty and light to Erica, but also onto ourselves and also onto the Ericas in our life, because for goodness sakes, we all need them. We are so very dependent on people like that, and they need love too. The fuel doesn't come in enough for people like that. So let's fuel the Ericas in our lives and use that energy that we are using to text that, to call that, to have that conversation. Use it to like spread light back to Erica, because she is the originator of this movement and the continuance of this. So that's how we're going to support her today. Erica, you're doing such amazing things. And from where we started on this journey together, you and I, to where we are now, like I couldn't have even written a more beautiful story. And I know that it's just beginning. And so keep going. Keep being a light. I hope you feel the energy shift today. I hope you feel that push. I hope that it results in like a karmic change of events that just is ever in your favor, because you deserve it like no one else. Okay. Erica's amazing. Period. Go ahead, take time, recognize yourself for your greatness, and then take time to just spread love and light and support to someone who always supports you. And do not let them talk down the compliment, okay? Make sure that they fully receive it and believe it, because that's how we get that person to take their power back, to recognize that they are a light, to start moving, back towards themselves. Yeah, okay? Make sure they receive it. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. Gosh, what did we even title this episode? Oh, yeah. This is like a thought that has been, from where we've been, because yesterday we talked about timelines and how timelines really aren't up to us. It's divine, right? And I think that that's a very complicated thought. It's a very deep subject. And so we're going to deepen that a little bit more today. I know that I'm pushing all of us. I know that I'm kind of growing us into this reality where reality doesn't really exist. I get that that's hard to think about, but this is where I end up on this. Everything is possible, right? So like once you align with that belief, things will start to play in your favor. And this is challenging, right? Because the challenge really isn't that you have to align. The challenge is finding what is supposed to be possible for you. And this could look like, and I've had a couple of these conversations with people lately because they're having their own moments with this of like, yeah, I applied for that job and I didn't get it and I kept getting no's, and then this happened. And now it's like, oh, I get why that was no. And so here's the deal. So many times we just spend all of our energy chasing these things that really aren't meant for us, right? And then we even go deeper with that. And we go into like a deeper negative space where, and I'm maybe only speaking from experience, where like we just become this victim that's just sitting here and we're just wreathing in gossip and insults and disgust for like the world and how it works and how jaded and against us it is. And I think sometimes we overlook the blessing, right? And human nature, we can't really see it all as we're going through it, like now I look back and I'm like, oh, I understand why that was no. I understand why that was F no. I understand why that was never, ever going to happen, and here I am right in that moment, right, spinning. And how many of us do that? We just spin into this victim place. We just spin into this world of anger and spite and hate because, right, that's our timeline. We wanted it to happen right then. We're like big old huge babies, no question, who just want what we want when we want it. And we don't really understand why some things aren't meant for us. And this is the challenge, because a lot of us get stuck there. And then we sit there and we try to figure out what's going to make us happy, even though the thing we're doing doesn't really make us happy. And then we try to fill in gaps with like, my favorite term, bucket filling activities on the side, because it's just really crazy to think that our lives could in fact be revolving around the bucket filling activities, right? the things that we just do because we love them, not because we could ever imagine building something to make money off of them. We're just supposed to participate in those things lovingly and on weekends and in our free time. And then all of a sudden, all of our free time is built with that, and we become so disgusted with the world that we have to exist in, because this world where we're actually happy isn't something that we could ever figure out how to do this, right? That's not real. That's not reality. The world really is against you. And so do this safe thing. And then fill in all your free time with these happy things. Don't do the happy things full time. You would be crazy. Don't do that. You're never going to make any money doing that. Are you insane? I think it's the opposite. Are you insane to not build something around the thing you love? Right? And that doesn't have to look like a full-time endeavor, and that doesn't have to create a ton of risk, but like, does risk really even exist? I don't know. I don't know that it does. I don't know that we haven't all been worked into this world where risk seems like something we shouldn't do, because look at the people who do take risks, right? Like bazillionaires, running the world. The risk takers of the world are in fact running it. What gave them confidence to do that? Well, what gave them confidence to do that? Probably a background, a portfolio, a stock exchange, coming from money. I don't know, fill in the blank, right? They didn't just end up there. They had kind of a reason to take that risk. Okay? But we could start building that reason today. And it's little risks over time. No, you probably aren't going to tomorrow make an electric car that beats Tesla, right? But it's about assuming small risks that make sense and align with what it is you like to do, right? What it is that you feel like fire in your soul about. What is that for you? I don't know, but I will tell you, it begins to get tricky because you can do everything, right? And like, for me, this was a really, really tricky one, because once I acknowledged, now we're acknowledging, right? Anything is possible. And so, Hanna, you could build 100 companies, right? You definitely have the background. You definitely have the skill set to do that. You could do that. And you could take and carbon copy and paste on anything that you wanted to build and bring to life. You could do that. No question. Right? And so once we stop doubting that, the world really opens up, and you begin to realize that's not the hard part, right? Once we get there, now the hard part is discerning what really is for us and what isn't, and sitting long enough to have that kind of play out and for that path to start aligning for us. And so for me, the biggest shift within the last 2 weeks has just been not asking, and like, think about how much time we ask, we beg, we try to move on our own timeline. We try to make things happen that aren't maybe supposed to happen, or maybe they are, right? But like, I think for me right now is just about silence and seeing where the path leads without my interruption. And, right, a little bit, when I set that 2 weeks ago, I'm like, let's just test it. Let's just see what flows, okay? Because, me, this is one of the things that I enjoy doing. It's like testing things out of spite. And now we're at this like heightened place where it's not out of spite. It's truly out of belief. And I set out with that intention. I just don't know that I fully crossed over and believed that that was possible. And so I have stopped asking, period. And do I have proof that it works? Yeah. Like, I've seen amazing moves just in this last 2 weeks that I could have never dreamt, ever. And even though I hadn't asked a lot in the past, there was always that intent of needing to and wanting to. And now I'm not even doing that. Like, I'm just chilling, waiting. I know that everything is meant for me. I know that the intentions that I have set into this world are divinely called into my life, or I would have never had the thought at all. And so my job is really just to match that frequency of which I am calling into my life, period. And that means we just let it flow. And ever since I broke that wall down of like not really having an expectation, not really having a timeline, everything has flowed. Everything is flow. And the breakdown of not truly believing it, right? Because that's the other side. It's like, if you're going in with spite or a little bit of doubt, you have to cross over. You have to cross over into the mental space where you know that these things are meant for you. And that's a really hard line to draw, right? Because it's so big and it's so expansive, and it almost crosses over into this space where, like, really anything that you want can happen. And like, what a big, scary, expansive universe the world is now, right? And it's not false, right? Where we muck it up, I said muck. I don't know if that's a word. I'm going to look it up in the dictionary after this. Where we muck it up as humans, my belief is that we start inserting ourselves into that as if we have any control over it at all. And that insertion really looks like ego. That insertion really looks like the projection of our own timeline, not the divine timing of it all. Like, what is meant for you will find you. It won't pass you. It won't, like, have to do a U-turn and come back to you. Like, it's right there. It's waiting for you. Your life is supposed to play out in this beautiful synchronicity that has already been laid out, right? Like, it's already been written. You have been divinely placed here. And so once we start to remove the ego, remove the timeline, all of a sudden we start to move into this flow space. And I think there's beauty and misery in flow, right? Because sometimes we get like this early on attention and we get caught up in that, right? And that's ego again. And ego is so hard to watch and value, right? Because it can't just be like, oh, ego, be gone, right? Like, ego actually beautifully guides us, because it can save us from ourselves sometimes. There have been moments, even with this work, where I got caught up in the ego and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And I have such beautiful mentors and just people in my life who have, like, guided me back down to reality, guided me back down to really what matters, right? And that's me. And the following of what I know to be true, and the following of the things that are my light, not just the things that people find light in. That's hard. I know that's hard, but like, think about it. Anytime that you have chased something that someone said, oh, I really love this about you, right? And I spent a good majority of my existence chasing things that other people loved about me. Anytime that you do that, there's a potential that it wasn't made for you, and you probably know, but it gets really hard to escape that chase, right? You know, when I started to denounce all of the things that I had been successful in my life, people certainly thought that I had gone mad. But it wasn't about success, it was about alignment. Like, these things weren't bringing me happiness. They were bringing me this false sense of happiness. They were definitely bringing me this false sense of success, but they weren't bringing out a light in me, right? Because slowly but surely I was dying inside. I didn't know who I even was anymore. And your identity isn't really caught up in the things you do. Your identity is caught up in who you are. When everything is gone, who are you, right? And we've learned that, and we've talked about that, and we've had in-depth conversations with people who have experienced these moments. And so that is why, right? That is why, timelines aside, you deserve the things that fill your bucket, and I want you to be in your bucket all the time. And it's a balance, right? Because all of a sudden we're like, okay, I found it. Now I'm going to get rich and famous doing this. I'm in the flow, right? And then we get caught up, and then all of a sudden we get likes and users and people. And then we like escape into this flow moment, and we block out everything else. Nothing else matters. We just need to stay here. We need to stay on this track. We need to get the likes. We need to be forcing this. We need to be calling in the money. We need to be doing these things. And all of a sudden we're back in that timeline track, and we're chasing ego, and we're not paying attention to the beauty of what could be expanding as a result of this movement, right? It's not meant to be singular. You are going to move in and out of professions and pursuits. It really isn't about what you do. It really is about who you are. And that's why that self-work is so important, because bottom line, every single thing is possible. So let's just take that out of the picture completely. If every single thing is possible, then you establishing what it is that you want is vital, is the most vital thing that you could do in this lifetime. What are the things that you want? And if you're just writing down material things, you got to go back to the drawing board, right? Because all of those things are possible. In fact, those things are so easily attainable, it's almost silly to write down. It isn't. Like, if you have a vision, write it down. But I'm telling you, you will get to those things quicker than you even feel comfortable with the second that you write it down. And then you'll begin to realize how impactful your mind is. If you believe that you can get that car, you will have that car, period. And those material things are easier, right? But like the alignment with what it is you want to do, how do you get to that space? How do you call those things in? How do you start chasing your own light? Like one little bitty baby step at a time. What could you do today that aligns with the person you see yourself as? What is it? What is that one thing? And like, how could you start stepping into that today, right? Is it just journaling? Is it just taking time to even know what that might be? Is it just taking time to close your eyes and really reflect and look at the world as expansive and endlessly possible? And then once you cross over into that world, what do your dreams look like? What are the things that you see yourself doing in this world? What is it that you're called to do? What is it that brings you light back as much as you give out? What are those things? And maybe today we start to give you permission to look at what those things are for you. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.